What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, another underwater video for you. This time we're going subsurface with soft plastic stick baits. Gonna show you how to properly rig some of our favorite stick baits to get the best and most action out of them. Let's go. Today's video, I wanted to take some of my favorite stick baits and rig them different ways. You know, we all know about Wacky rigging, Texas rigging, but I also wanted to do a little weighted Wacky rig and see how it affected the action on some of our favorite stick baits. You know, primarily, hands down, I love the Senko, and you will see in some of this underwater footage, it is just so much different, has so much more action than a lot of the other baits on the market, and that's what makes it special. But after watching this footage, playing around with the action I was giving the different baits, seeing which baits really shined, I think you guys will find a lot of this stuff interesting like I did. You know, a lot of times, woo, it is windy. Got the wireless mic on today, so hopefully it's good. But a lot of times, you know, we don't give our Senkos or our stick baits enough action, and sometimes we give them too much action. So hopefully this video with watching the underwater footage will kind of show you guys and help you guys how to better properly rig a Senko or a stick bait to get the best action out of the bait, and then also how to work it. So what I did, I'll show you the baits real quick. 5-inch Senko. And I rigged them all three ways: Wacky, Texas rigged, and then weighted Wacky to see how they shined, which way rigged they looked better. So 5-inch Senko, 5-inch Big Bite Baits trick stick, 5-inch Yum Dinger. Then we jumped over to the 6-inch baits, Senko. This one I really like, that Gambler, that's the Fat Ace, trick stick. And then I threw in a Magnum for you, the Magnum 10-inch Senko. So pretty cool. If you guys like throwing big soft stick baits, you guys will enjoy that footage as well. But so those are the three different ways that I rigged them. And I even did some comparisons. I took just a weightless Wacky rig Senko and ran it with a 3/32. I'll show you guys this hook real quick. It's a 3/32 1/0 Gamakatsu weighted Wacky hook, and show just the comparisons together. You know, surprisingly, that bait didn't fall that much quicker than just the weightless Wacky rig. But the benefit, and we'll get to this in just a second, but the benefit is, as I was working that bait, having that weight in the middle of that Senko kept it symmetrical and falling evenly every single time. Instead of hopping it up and having it kind of dart off to the side like a fluke or something, that weight kept it, you could hop it up and work it real erratic and let that thing fall, and the arms would kind of pump down and hop it, and it just kept it falling symmetrical, even all the way down. So let's jump into the footage. Obviously, it's really important to rig your baits correctly. I will show you guys how to do that here in just a second, but let's jump in and check out some of the 5-inch Senko. Again, we're talking Wacky rig, Texas rigged, and then weighted Wacky. So when I was shooting this underwater, gotta apologize because it was sunny and then cloudy, a thunderstorm rolled in, so you're gonna see kind of some brightness changes throughout this footage, but it's so cool. You can really see how that Senko just really has a ton of action. It doesn't matter if it's Texas rigged or Wacky rigged or weighted Wacky, that bait has a shimmy to it unlike any other baits that I've seen underwater. So that is why it is my favorite Senko. I mean, it's my favorite stick bait because it just kind of sets the standard, like I talked about in a previous video, that all these other baits are trying to recreate, replicate. So we talked about the Senko, and before we get into other footage, I want to show you guys, or at least tell you guys how I rigged these. All of the weighted or weightless Wackies were rigged on a #1 Gamakatsu with a band. That's just the finesse wide gap, 7-pound sunline. And then we use that band from VMC. I'm gonna show you guys how to properly rig that. We got some questions on that last time. As far as the Texas rig, on the 5-inch baits, we went with a 3/0 super line. And on the 6-inch baits, we went with a 4/0 super line. EWG. And then of course on the weighted Wacky, we went with that Gamakatsu, that 3/32 ounce on all the baits, just to keep it fair. But really quickly, I want to show you guys how I actually rig my 5-inch Wacky rigged Senkos. You know, I've showed you guys a little trick about seeing the bow, so we know that this bait kind of tends, we can see that it kind of goes that way. So if we're Wacky rigging it, we want that to fall. So what I do, got these little nifty pliers. I've showed you guys these before. To answer some questions, you guys, last video, you guys were asking which size bands. #6 is good for 5-inch Senko. #7 is good as well. And you can actually fit those on a 6-inch Senko. So the #7's are just a little bit bigger diameter, so it doesn't pinch the bait as tight. But what I do, so I figure out which way it needs to go, and then I fold this bait in half, right? Because I want to get that band right in the middle. I want this thing to be symmetrical. So I will literally, I'll do it with my right hand so you guys can see. I'll grab and pinch right where I think it needs to be. Take my pliers. It's kind of doing it backwards to the camera. But I will take the tip of the pliers and butt them up where my thumb is, where my finger is, because that's where that band has to be. Let go, and then all you have to do is slide this band off. All I'm doing is sliding it off of the tip of the pliers. So the tip of the pliers is right where that band needs to be, okay? And then what I will do, so now you can see right there in the middle. And then what I will do, I know that the lighter part of the Senko is what needs to be cupped down. So I will kind of twist this. If you're really smart, you will put your Senko on in the pliers like this, but I will twist that band. So now when I hook my Wacky rigged hook point's gonna be up, cut part of the Senko is gonna be down, and now I have a perfectly symmetrical rigged Wacky rig. You guys can see that band is right there in the middle, and that is how you get the best action out of a Wacky rigged stick bait. It doesn't matter if it's a Yum Dinger or a trick stick or a Senko or whatever, pay attention to that. So now that you know how I rigged them, now when you watch that footage, you can see how to get the best action out of your baits. So, showed you guys the Senko. What'd you guys think? I mean, down below in the comment section, I want to hear what you guys think, what looks best. You can see that Senko just has an unbelievable shimmy to it. It doesn't matter if it's Texas rigged, you can see that bait going back and forth, Wacky rigged. But again, that weightless Wacky was what really stood out to me. So when I'm fishing a Senko, a lot of times I'm fishing it weightless, I'm skipping it up under docks. But where that weightless Wacky hook really, I was really impressed with the footage was when I was working that bait quickly, right? So I throw out the initial fall, it flutters down, hits bottom, pop, pop, let it fall. Sometimes on the weightless Wacky rigged, when I would pop it and I'd slack line it for it to fall, it would dart left or right and fall very quickly because it didn't get that cupped action that slows it. But with that weighted, kind of, like I said, making that bait symmetrical, it would fall evenly. So it didn't matter how many times I hopped it up and let it fall, that weight made that bait sit straight in the water and it slowed that fall and really gives it a lot of action. So where this really comes into play is if I'm fishing a little bit quicker or if I'm fishing that bait up in the water column, you know, kind of like a floating worm. You skip it up under a lay down or whatever, let it fall, hop, 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 let it fall, halfway down, hop, 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 almost like a swimming action, if you will. And you can just cover a lot more water, but you're still getting that really effective shimmy that the Senko is known to have. But really, really impressed with that footage. Now let's take a look at my two other favorites, the Yum Dinger and the Trick Stick. So the Yum Dinger and the Trick Stick are both inexpensive baits in the category. The Yamamoto is a little bit more pricey, but you can see why, right? A lot more salt, it falls a little bit quicker. Both the Trick Stick and the Yum Dinger, surprisingly, looking at the underwater footage, they looked almost identical underwater, to be honest. Very impressed with both of them. And where I've always thrown the Yum Dinger when I was pond fishing, right? I'm fishing shallower water. I don't need to go out and buy expensive or more expensive Senkos, but I want to throw a weightless Wacky rigged or even a Texas rig stick bait. That's where I go with those Yum Dingers. But looking at this underwater footage, the Trick Stick looks really well too. Where they both shined was how slow they fall. It didn't matter if I rigged them with that weightless Wacky hook or not. They just fell so much slower. They got a lot less salt in them than the Senko. So if you're fishing shallower water or if you're on a budget, that is where those baits really, really shine. Again, that's what I throw in my backpack when I'm walking the shoreline or I'm fishing a pond. Both the Trick Stick and that Yum Dinger were money. All right, so that was the 5-inch baits. Now let's talk about the 6-inch baits. You know, a lot of guys Texas rig 6-inch baits. I primarily Texas rig the 6-inch bait, and I wanted to see how they looked underwater. So starting off with the Senko, obviously that same great fall. Again, went with that 4-aught. This is the 3-aught, but went with that 4-aught Gamakatsu EWG Superline hook for the 6-inch baits. Now, the reason that we throw the Superline hook, it's not that we need or that we're worried about bending out the hook. What really helps when you're fishing these baits like this, woo, stuff's blowing off the deck of the boat, it adds a keel. So we kind of talked about it a little bit with that weightless Wacky, but it lets this bait, again, you're gonna find which way it's cupped and you're gonna wanna rig that down to slow the fall, right? This bait's like this, so I have it rigged so it's cupped down. But that thicker wire, that heavier gauged wire on that hook acts as a keel and really sets this Senko and the rest of the baits to sit and fall symmetrically. Same thing with the Wacky, right? But it adds that keel and lets that bait really shine and really add a lot of action to that bait. So that's how we rigged it right there. The 6-inch Senko, it just falls a little bit faster than the 5-inch, a little bit heavier of a bait, but looked really, really good rigged all 3 ways. And that was kind of, I expected that because I've done some underwater stuff with the Senko before. But the one that really shined to me was the Gambler, the Fat Ace. You know, it comes with that garlicky Gambler smell. You Florida guys know what I'm talking about. But it's a really soft bait, and it looked awesome rigged the 3 different ways as well. I actually really liked it the Texas rigged way. It just had a nice, slow, subtle fall. I tried to go with, if possible, with some brighter baits that you guys could see kind of the, you know, the edges of the baits. You know, this guy had the blue, that trick stick had the chartreuse, but I wanted to kind of really zoom in and look at the real subtle action that these baits had. So that Gambler looked awesome. You guys can check out this footage. What really stood out to me, and again, down below in the comment section, I want to hear what stands out to you guys. Not the one I wanted, but this guy right here. That's that Fat Ace rigged on that same 3/32 ounce weighted Wacky. Not only does the weighted Wacky allow you to work the bait faster and have that bait fall symmetrically, but on the baits that didn't have quite as much action weightless as the Senko, when you add that weight to it and it speeds up that fall just a little bit, that is when that trick stick and that Fat Ace really came to life. Even the Yum Dinger and the 5-inch just added that little bit quicker fall, added a little bit more action to the edges of the bait. And I thought that was really interesting. So it doesn't necessarily speed up the fall all too much, but it adds a lot more action to some of these baits that they weren't getting out of with just a standard Wacky rig hook or that super line hook. It needed a little bit extra weight. So maybe you guys might want to play around with that. You know, after watching all of this footage, I'm like, dang man, I need to be throwing a weighted Wacky more often than I do, because a lot of times I am fishing them in deeper water, 10, 12, 15 feet, and I'll just let that thing fall. But adding that weight makes that thing just fall symmetrically, adds a little bit more action to these other baits that don't necessarily have it off the bat. The one other thing that I learned while watching this footage, talking about the weightless 5-inch baits and the 6-inch baits, so just the weightless Wacky rig baits. If you're a weightless Wacky rig fisherman, firing that bait out there, that initial fall, it falls, right? There we go, there's the flapping. When you go to hop and you slackline it, a lot of times it would turn and dart, or turn and dart. And that might be a good thing, maybe like a fluke, like an erratic fluke. But if you're hoping to get that, after that second or third hop, and you're hoping to get that symmetrical fall again, weightless, when you hop it, give that first initial slack line a little, don't make it so slack, if that makes sense. Give a little bit of tension so that bait falls, you hop it up, you go to drop your rod tip, let that bait have a little bit of tension, because that's gonna balance that bait out, and then give it slack line. So just for a split second after you hop, don't just drop your rod tip and let it crash, give it slack line. Drop your rod tip a little bit, kind of walk it down with that semi-tight line, and then slack it, and then let it fall. Because that will kind of, if that bait is starting to fall sideways, that resistance balances out, and then slack line it, and it will fall. Hopefully that makes sense. Now the last bait that we did was that 10-inch bait by Magnum. I'm gonna show you guys, this is it compared to a 5-inch Senko. Again, these are our favorite stick baits. These are baits throughout the years that we've thrown all around the world. We really had a ton of fun throwing this down on back rack in Mexico. This is the 10-inch bait stick. That's that June bug color. But again, wacky rigging it. You could Texas rig it. I didn't for this video, because typically I'm wacky rigging this big bait. I want a lot of action on the sides of this bait. And it is what it is. It is a giant Senko. Falls a little bit faster because it is heavy, but look how soft this thing is. I mean, it's so soft. You can get a lot of action, especially rigging it on that weighted wacky, just keeping it near bottom, just shaking it, getting those appendages going. But as far as giant stick baits, that Magnum Baits is the way to go. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed that footage. Hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on how to properly rig your baits. You know, make sure you're looking at your bait. You know, some baits don't have it, right? Say this Yum Dinger. It's a fairly straight bait, but guess what? They have a little hook pocket right there. So when you hook this bait, you want the hook point coming out the back. You want the hook belly of the hook going right there. So just pay attention, making sure that you're rigging these baits correctly. And then on those baits that do have that cupped angle, make sure you're rigging that down. Make sure you're using those VMC bands or O-rings, because you guys will definitely catch more fish getting that bait to work as best and the way that it should. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed that underwater footage. I love underwater footage. Again, I apologize for the cloud cover and how dark it is, but yeah, you can learn so much stuff. You know, the little bluegills swimming in and looking at the baits and stuff, bass cruising in the background, but more importantly, how those baits work, how adding a little bit of weight really makes those baits balance out and just kind of exaggerates that motion in the bait. But I love doing it. I'm always learning stuff, so hopefully you guys too. Like I said, down below in the comment section, I want to see what you guys picked up on, because we all pick up on different things. I will link the gear that I use down below in the video description. Real quickly, it was 7-pound Sunline on the 5-inch baits. It was 16-pound Sunline on the 6-inch baits, and then 20-pound on the big the bait stick, the Magnum Baits bait stick. But just want to try to keep it evenly and fair with all these baits, just to kind of show you guys what they look like. But down below I'll link all that stuff. But like I said, down in the comment section, I want to hear what you guys think, what stood out, what you guys like, so we can all learn from each other, right? But as always, guys, if you guys enjoyed this underwater video, give us a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are quickly approaching that 500,000 subscribers, which is just mind-boggling. We appreciate you guys so much for just the support and just yeah, for being awesome subscribers. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.